So Vegas is just around the corner and we are already seeing a bunch of people preparing for the Vegas Open. By the way, your boy will also be there as well. So if you see me there, please come say hi. I would love to meet you. I will not approach you, by the way. You're going to have to approach me because I am very people shy and timid in person and very quiet and awkward and introvert at heart. So I'm just saying, I warned you. You know what they say, don't meet your heroes. I mean, not that I'm your hero, but I mean, you get the idea. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. The point is, in today's video, we are going to be reviewing Robin songs, or should I say DSG Robin songs, because Robin songs and a bunch of the other people from the DSG team are preparing with in-houses on the PBE server. Now, you might be wondering, like, PBE server, like, why is that the case? Well, it's because of Vegas. Because the PBE patch is the same patch as the Vegas patch. So a bunch of pro players and a bunch of really strong players, especially the ones competing, are practicing on the new patch because they want to get a leg up and a better read on the meta as soon as possible. This patch, by the way, is also coming out on Wednesday, so within like 2 days. So everything in this video is going to be relevant very, very soon, especially for people who are not competing inside of the Vegas tourney. But without further ado, let's get on to today's video. Okay, so here we go. We are inside of Robin Songs' game, and we're given the Artifact Anvil, the Multi-Talented, and Item Payout realms. Now, across all of these realms, none of these portals really scream like you have to approach the game differently. And to be quite honest, most of them you don't have to do anything differently, except for maybe Scuttle Puddle. But in terms of multi-talented though, I do want to mention it real quick. Disco TF is a lot stronger in that realm just because you get +2 Disco and +2 Dazzler. TF benefits greatly from having those +2. And from what I can tell, I think TF is probably the strongest vertical to play within that realm, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a different unit uses the multi-talented realm better than TF. But anyways, looks like it does not really matter, and I'm yapping because we are inside the Orn Artifact realm. And again, we are inside of the PBE. This is the Vegas patch, so things have changed. The way that we approach the meta, the way that the Chosens that we choose to decide to pick up have changed, and the decisions are different. As we can see, Robin decides to not opt to pick up the Kennen Chosen, which is really interesting. That's definitely something new. A lot of people would definitely pick it up within the current patches on the live servers at the moment, but Kennen Chosen, because it got nerfed pretty heavily, I think Robin decides to opt against it. He does settle for a Nami Chosen instead though, which I don't know if I fully agree with. I think I'd rather just gamble the 2-1 here, but I guess for him, it's good enough. But anyways, going to our 2-1 augments here, Iron Assets, Silver Veil, and 1-2-3s. Silver Veil, not really an augment you really want to take at 2-1, just because it's a lot better mid to late game, significantly better mid to late game, but in the early game, it's very difficult to derive value out of it. So for stage 2, we're basically playing down a whole augment, so I wouldn't really recommend it. Iron Assets, 1-2-3s. Now, Iron Assets is great if you know that you have like 3 really strong slams. Right now, Robin is basically committed to slamming Shojin. We have a sword here and a cloak. So, I mean, we could slam Adapticone, but then we're stuck with an open sword. It's a little difficult to be like, okay, are we really gonna do like Adapticone Gunblade, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense, and typically you want to have 3 full items if you're gonna take Iron Assets. I mean, it's still a great augment regardless, but ideally we have 3 full items for either a carry or a tank, and that's not going to be the case in this scenario. So 1-2-3s is sort of the way we're going to lean here, especially because we're kind of lacking direction, because Disco isn't that great in the early game, but significantly better when the late game comes by. So we're going to take 1-2-3s here, see what our options are, see if anything is really given to us as an option for anything. And we are given a Senna pair, which is kind of nice, especially with the affiliates in the backline. Samira, Annie, Olaf, Big Shot, Gorky. To be honest, not a lot to work with. We do have the Nami already for our Chosen. It is what we decided to settle on. So even though Senna 2 is really, really strong, it's not going to be something that we're really going to be trying to pivot into. Just because we're going to be playing down a Chosen for like 3 rounds. It doesn't really make the most sense. Maybe we can play without the Chosen here, but I think the Nami is still stronger regardless compared to playing the Senna and the Aphelios currently. And we do want to play around our strongest board here. Obviously, we are going to try to make 10 here, and we're going to slam the Shojin with the Sniper's Focus. Now, it looks like already we kind of know the direction that we're leaning, and it's going to be either Karthus, it's going to be TF, and those are kind of like the 2 big ones. The reason being is because right now Shojin and Shojin and Sniper's Focus, the specific item combo is really, really great on both TF and Karthus. Karthus specifically loves Sniper's Focus. He's so far away from the main carry. He does so much bonus damage with Sniper's Focus. It's one of his best, if not his best item, and especially with the mana regen already committed to. We just need 1 strong AP item and we are chilling. We do decide to actually opt to make 20 here, which is pretty crazy here. I think it's a slight mistake though to not play the double Taric instead of the Kennen instead, but maybe he's trying to opt to pivot out of Nami at 2-5 once he gets a different Chosen given to him. So maybe that is like the general idea here, but I do think holding on to the pair is a bit better here. But if we're going to try to make 30 next turn, then I can see why he would opt to do such a thing. But he does upgrade to the Cannon 2 here, and we are chilling with this board, which, again, isn't that great. It's not terrible, but it's not amazing either. So we are probably going to be trying to lose streak here, trying to take close losses whenever possible. He is scouting quite a bit to see if there's anybody who he actually loses against, or actually wins against, rather. And I think right now he kind of thinks that he doesn't win against anybody, but I think this fight in particular, if I remember correctly, unfortunately, it's a little too strong. His board is actually a little stronger than he expected, so he unfortunately wins here and loses his potential to 5 loss. So right now, our spot is looking pretty fucking bad in my opinion. Maybe we can try to secure a 5 win streak, but it's going to be really difficult. Again, we're sitting on an open cloak here, and the best way a lot of people have been killing the cloak has been with Adapticone. The idea being is that Adapticone is great. It's very flexible throughout the early game because you get assignment on your backline carries or your frontline carries, depending on whatever you want to do. And you get to slap it onto any frontliner in the late game if you just need extra stats in the front line, but also if you just need that mana regen for the backline in case you never find that Shojin. Obviously, we do already have Shojin, so I mean, Adapticone is only going to be a mana regen item for now, but eventually this is going to definitely go onto one of our frontline tanks. Now, pushing level 5 here, we are again trying to secure a 3 win. That is the ideal goal at this point because we did win the last one, unfortunately. And I guess our board isn't the worst thing in the world. It's definitely fine, especially with snipers focused on Nami. So it's very possible for us to potentially maybe 3 win streak in the spot. But again, our board is not the best. Also, just to take note, we do have the Gragas in our shop here for the potential headliner pivot, but we decided to opt against it because it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? There's no reason for us to switch out a backline carry for a frontliner and then suddenly we have negative damage on our board. So opting to not take the Gragas was definitely the correct call here. And actually, interestingly enough, and why you probably clicked on this video, Robin is already thinking about potentially playing around Lux reroll from the spot, which is pretty insane. This is a very early commitment to potentially playing into Lux reroll, but we did get the early Lux here, and I think Robin is a bit more open to the idea of experimenting because right now, at least based off what people have realized throughout the PBE Vegas patch, is that 3-cost reroll is looking kind of strong. Yone reroll is the biggest outlier at the moment, but there are also other 3 costs as well. Things like Jazz reroll, because surprisingly enough, even post all of the Jazz nerfs, MF reroll still looks pretty fucking solid. On top of that, we also have Vex reroll, which is a kind of an interesting one that's been popping up a little bit, only because a lot of melee carries are popping up into the meta with 4 costs with Viego and Zed. So Vex is actually a really interesting counter to that because she just AoE CCs them and they just can't do jack shit. So that's also pretty interesting to see as well. So there's a bunch of different lines that are available, and I think if so many other players are potentially playing around 3-cost reroll, then Lux is potentially an option as well. Now, when it comes to Lux though, there are some things to keep in mind. In order for Lux to succeed as a potential carry, she needs 2 things to go well. One, she needs a lot of frontline. She needs the fights to stall out because she needs to be able to zap everything within time. And it takes time to get there, right? There are 2 approaches. Either you stall out with something like an Archangels and you try to blast everything over time, or you go with a just 4 Dazzler version and you just blast everything as soon as possible, right? That is the first thing. The second thing is that you need Lux 3 ASAP because for whatever reason, Lux 2 is a shitty fucking unit. I don't know what it is, but typically when you play 3-cost reroll, your 2-star 3-cost should stabilize you for the majority of stage 4. Ideally until about 4-2, 4-5, and then you should start to feel a little bit of falling off. But with Lux 3, or sorry, with Lux 2, this unit's shit. You just lose every time. So they need to really buff Lux 2, but Lux 3 is actually pretty strong. So it's kind of a weird situation Lux is currently in the 3-cost reroll meta. But anyways, moving on, Tiny Titans, Rolling for Days, and Parting Gifts. Again, like we talked about, we're already thinking about playing Lux, and taking Rolling for Days here basically hard commits us into Lux. I think the idea is that Robin is probably looking at his board and thinking that it's not that great, and it's very likely we're gonna lose the next 2 rounds anyways, so we're just gonna take Rolling for Days and just commit. And I think, honestly, that's a pretty smart decision to make. Parting Gifts is also really strong, and Tiny Titans, I think a lot of people see Tiny Titans and think Fast 9, but as we've seen throughout the Vegas patch, at least so far with the in-houses and everything, Fast 9 is looking a little more dead. It requires a much stronger spot to justify going a Fast 9, just because a lot of the 4-cost and a lot of the 3-cost rerolls are very, very strong options at the moment. So because of that, you bleed out a little too hard, especially during stage 4, the latter half of stage 4. So when you stabilize at 9, ideally 5-2, you have to have a lot of economy and be prepared to pivot as soon as possible. And that just doesn't seem to really be the case, at least with the Vegas patch. It's a lot harder to Fast 9, at least from what I can tell. But as we see, Robin takes Rolling for Days. I almost call it continuous Rolling for Days because there's like a little C in the middle of it. I don't really know why there's a little C icon, but maybe it's a coin and you know, whatever. Dude, I don't fucking know, man. But Anyways, we are saving our rolls for ideally a 3-5 roll down, because the idea is that we want to try to hit this Lux 3 ideally as soon as possible. So we want to save this rolls as soon as we can, because in a perfect world, we hit Lux Headliner at 3-5, and then not only that, but maybe even just Lux 3 off rip. So it's very possible, and saving these rolls to just make sure that we can ensure that we hit the Lux Headliner is super prudent. So as we can see here, Robin is actually doing pretty well here in these fights. His board is actually a little stronger than I expected it to be, which is really great. Again, it just goes to show that he has really strong fundamentals, being able to have 3 items immediately on his carry, which is super nice. So bro is chilling. He's in a really good spot. Rod is available on the carousel. Never mind, does get taken away. So Zach definitely does make the most sense here, because Zach is an EDM unit. We do definitely need him, but also because just getting a chain vest is really nice, because, you know, gives us a little bit of extra tank. Moving on. Sells the Nami, which is really great here, and then starts rolling, trying to find the EDM headliner for, I believe, Lux. I think +2 Dazzler. I'm not really sure if you take it, to be completely honest. I'm sure it's okay, but I think if you're going +2 Dazzler, you really should go +4, and then really make sure that your third item on Lux, at least in this scenario, is something like a Rabadon, something like a JG. That's just because you want to just zap everything as soon as possible, snipe the carries as soon as possible, and hope that that is enough to win you the fights. I do like the Archangel version slightly better though, at least from my experience. The reason being is that as long as you have a lot of frontline, you can justify Archangels, and then Lux will eventually just zap everything anyways. It's a little less consistent in my opinion, but I think in terms of like trying to cap out your board, I think it's slightly stronger, but I could be totally wrong with that read, and that's totally fine. Again, doesn't look like we are actually playing with a single headliner, because we really need to make sure that we hit this Lux headliner as soon as possible. So he's really actually not only greening his HP, but also greening the econ here, and not picking up a headliner, even though yes, this Vex 2 is stronger than this Lux here, and I feel like there is some level of justification for picking up this Vex here and just trying to play standard instead. But it looks like Robin is just full committed into this reroll line, especially because he took rolling for days. Again, that C is really throwing me off, but because he took rolling for days instead, so we're just hard committed. We're just gonna play the Lux here. So ideally, again, with Lux, we want to try to hit the Lux 3 as soon as possible. So 4-1 is the goal. We want to try to hit this unit as soon as possible. So it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard here, but ideally we hit as soon as we can. Ooh, nice. So hits the Lux 3. I completely forgot when he hit the Lux 3 in this game, or rather he hit the Lux headliner, and because we are now 1 off, we are going to just basically donkey roll and try to hit the Lux. It looks like we have to opt for the Archangels here. JG does not really seem to be a good slam here, and I want you to think about this real quick. What would you slam in this spot? Because we already know it's Archangels, right? It's either Archangels or Rabadons ideally. Funny enough, it's actually not JG. JG is putting a Ramblin, like a really terrible item. I heard him talk about this on Raided's stream. So it's either Rabadons or Archangels. And basically, now that we have Archangels already decided, we have Cricklev, Chain, Belt. I remember watching this and thinking like, I didn't agree with the item slams that Robin chose here. But I want you to think about what it is, right? I'll give you a second. Or you can pause the video, because I'm going to talk about it now. I'm impatient. But in this spot, personally, I was thinking Steadfast Heart Sunfire Cape. And you throw it onto the Zac, you have 3 items in the front line, 3 items in the back line, open Cricklev for the Zed, you are good to go. Robin has different plans. Robin looks at his options here, considers the Steadfast Heart, because he definitely sees it's definitely an option here, and actually goes for TGZ, which was so interesting to me. And the reason behind TGZ is that because Zed isn't really our primary carry, it's going to be the Lux 3 here. Zed just needs some base stats just to be able to cast the laser, so that when the Lux laser is shooting out of him, he is just doing at least some level of damage here, and it's not just a naked Zed firing beam, right? So really prudent. I thought that was really cool. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a really smart decision. But anyways, Crash Test Dummies, Gifts from the Fallen, and Long Distance Pals. These are our options for 4-2. I feel like it's pretty obvious, but maybe it's not. What would you take in this spot? The correct answer is Crash Test Dummies every single time. And the reason being is, quite honestly, I don't think there's actually a better augment he could have taken, to be completely honest. I'm pretty sure this is the best augment he could have taken. One, because Crash Test Dummies is kind of like a gold plus augment. It's fucking so strong. It just works in like every board. Nobody dislikes CC. Nobody dislikes having more frontline. It's so versatile. It's so good. But on top of that, like we had talked about before, Lux really wants stall, especially if we were playing the Archangel's version of Lux. So because we do have the Archangel version, we do want to try to stall as much as possible. So getting the Crash Test Dummies onto our board is super prudent. I also find it very interesting that he's playing the double Luxes here instead of potentially playing Dazzler instead. I think he just finds more value in having just multiple Luxes just shooting the laser as much as possible. I don't know if that's actually necessarily stronger than having Dazzler on our board here. You can see he actually rolls over the Bard here, which is really interesting. I would have definitely held the Bard, but nonetheless, hits the Lux 3, which is super nice, and we're chilling on 5 EDM. I think his philosophy is that we can't even hit, or we can't even fit 5 EDM and 2 Dazzler at the same time, so he's just going to opt for 5 EDM instead, and his read is 5 EDM is stronger than having 2 Dazzler on the board. Again, not sure if I fully agree with it, but I think it's really cool that this is the approach that he's taking rather than taking 2 Dazzler. I think I really value the damage out of 2 Dazzler. Just any bit of bonus damage is better. But I think he's probably thinking he has enough damage. He just wants as much cast as possible. So EDM is the way to go. So I really like I can see the line of reasoning. I think it's pretty smart. Anyways, taking Zac off the carousel here because it gives us Zac 2 and it gives us Sunfire Cape. Sunfire Cape, I would argue, is pretty good. I think a lot of people were kind of against the idea of building Sunfire Cape versus something like a Morello or the red buff. The reason being is because Morello and red buff have potential to hit the backline carries for a lot of the units for for the first patch. Sorry, Robin's yapping in my ear. You can't hear it, but I can hear it, and it's confusing me a little bit. But the idea being is that because red buff and Morello can hit the backline, and there's a lot of backline carries within the current patch, at least on the live servers, red buff and Morello are just superior. Because getting anti-heal on the front line, it doesn't really do much a lot of the times. But now the meta is starting to shift into a lot of melee carries, a lot of Viego, a lot of Zeds, a lot of Poppies, right? So a lot of Yones, right? So we're starting to see that there is going to be a shift. So I do think Sunfire Cape is going to be a little bit stronger in this current patch because we're able to get the anti-heal value onto the frontliners who are also at the same time the carries for a lot of these boards. Also, just Zac in particular also bounces around, right? So he's gonna be able to spread Sunfire anyway, so it's really not that too much of a problem. But moving on here, we're now gonna eco. We're gonna try to get to level 8 and try to take in the Dazzlers and just call it a day. Ideally get a Ziggs onto our board, and that's gonna basically be it. Ziggs did get unfortunately nerfed a little. I mean, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but Bro got nerfed. But even though post nerfs, I still think Ziggs is a really, really strong unit. It's not a unit that you can be like, it's not a unit you sleep on. It's hyper pop at the end of the day. It gets your carries to cast just a little bit faster. But on top of that, Ziggs is just Ziggs and it spreads MR Shred, which is super nice. Getting dropped the double bow here, which is a little unfortunate because we do already have the Sunfire Cape. It's either GS or Nash's from this spot. We can't use the last Whisper and we can't use another red buff. It makes no sense. So it's probably just Nash's something. I think honestly leveling here makes a lot of sense as well. See if we can just level. I mean, how much money do we have? 30, 10 to roll. Maybe we wait one more interval, but we have one more interval and then we just next level 8 and then we can just look for like a Nashor's holder. Ideally anything like Ziggs, Bard, TF, any of these are okay. And then we'll be chilling with 2 Dazzler on our board and we should be good to go. Surprised that he actually loses this fight here. I think his board's actually pretty strong here. Finds the Alawi, which is super nice. And then we're probably just going to roll here for Zetsu, which is super nice. We do have the Sona as well, but we do find the Dazzler instead, so Dazzler is going to be the way to go, and now our board is actually super strong. You can also see, funny enough, Robin's actually opting to trap his Jax in the corner. This is sort of some tech that's been going around for the EDM line specifically. The idea being is that if you trap the Jax in the corner, he can probably get at least 2 casts off versus maybe 1 cast off because he just kind of walks up and dies. So by trapping Jax in the corner, he just procs the EDM sample and is able to shoot laser. And I think a lot of people have sort of agreed upon that that is more value than just having the Jax walk up as a shield. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know how much I agree with this idea. The only thing is that I don't really know how much this Jax is really doing per fight, because at the end of the day, I think a meat shield is still a meat shield, right? Because how much damage is Jax really doing versus having the Lux cast? If it's a lot of damage, then I can agree. Sure, trap the Jax in the corner. But as we can see, he got 2 casts off and he did 1.7k damage. So is that 1.7k damage worth more than having the Jax just tank as a beefy frontliner? I don't really know. Maybe in the early game, but maybe in the late game, that 1.7k actually matters. It's still a decent chunk of damage. It's not like little by any means. So, it's definitely possible that trapping the Jax is actually correct here. I don't really know. Maybe somebody can help me with the math on that, but I'm not really sure what is necessarily stronger if you should trap it, especially just because our Alawi tentacles end up going in the back as well, which I don't really like too much. I guess it's okay if it's an Akali meta, but also another thing to note, Akali, as you may or may not have realized, is not really very present in this lobby. Akali post Executioner nerfs actually feels a lot worse, and I think people are starting to realize that Karthus as well as a secondary carry isn't amazing. Especially because once the Akali dies, you're kind of stuck with the Karthus solo carry. And if Karthus is solo carrying a fight, you are doomed, because that dude has to one-shot things, because if he doesn't one-shot them, then it's kind of fucked, because he just doesn't kill anything. He just spreads his damage everywhere, and it's not great. Also, people have realized, specifically Lay Duck, there's a lot of anti-Karthus tech now, like a lot, versus the Aloy tentacles. Then we do have Crash's dummies, so that's also going to bait the Karthus ults, but then on top of that, apparently Zed Shadows gets targeted by Karthus ults. You learn something new every day, but apparently it's supposed to be untargetable, but it does get targeted by Karthus ults. So Karthus is just progressively getting worse and worse, as not only Zed is getting better and people are starting to play Zed on his board, but also because people are starting to realize more and more ways to counter Karthus. Obviously, I don't think that is an intended interaction, because in Zed's ability, it does read untargetable shadows. So hopefully that gets bug fixed before Vegas, but that is definitely something to keep on the radar, because if that bug stays present throughout Vegas, suddenly this Karthus unit is looking really, really bad. So that is going to be a problem, and it looks like 80 Flux is going to be way more prevalent. We do have Archangels, Redemption, and Guardbreaker as our potential options here for our items. Redemption slamming on the set, I don't know if I 100% agree, only because maybe it's possible that Archangels on the Jax that is trapped here makes more sense, or maybe even onto the TF, depending on how much damage this TF is doing. The idea being is that this Jax is going to Lux ult anyways, and it's going to be trapped in the corner, so it's going to stay alive for a relatively long time. So it's very possible that it did, what, 2.5k in this fight. Imagine it had some AP scaling with Archangels. It could be really good. Again, maybe it could go on the TF as well. I don't really know. But I think both are totally fine. At this point in the game, though, we are chilling. We're just going to try to go 9. We have secured the top 4, which is super nice. But I think, if I remember correctly, yeah, so Ablert, I believe this is Box, is the only one playing fast 9 in this lobby, and everybody else is actually 3-cost reroll. And as you can see here, crazy enough, his board loses with a Ziggs chosen. So even though Ziggs is really strong here, it actually gets out damaged by the Lux, got sniped by the Lux, and not only that, he went 4th with a pretty relatively strong level 9 board. So I'm gonna be honest, at least from what I can tell, 3-cost reroll actually looks really, really strong. Like, really strong. Lux is looking good in the right spots. Yone is looking too good. And then you also have the sort of the tried and true, right? The country reroll, the MF reroll, right? They're, even post nerfs, they're still pretty fucking solid. So it's actually really interesting to see that, like, hey, like, there's a lot of viable 3-costs, at least in the current meta. So I'm really interested to see how the Vegas meta pans out, because it's very possible we might be going into Vegas in a 3-cost reroll meta. And that is just not very fun to watch. It's almost like watching set 9.5 all over again. I say that as in, like, people come into their comps like super early, and then they just press D, and then that's it. So we'll see. We will see. I'm not really sure how to feel about this, to be completely honest. But anyways, Robin decides not to roll here because he thinks that maybe there's a chance he wins, goes 9, and is able to cap out. But that is not the case. He dies with 60 gold in the tank, and it is a second. But as you can see here in the screenshot of the final lobby, I don't normally share this, but I wanted to talk about this a little bit. Yone 3 goes first, Lux 3 goes second, MF 3 goes third. I'm just saying, it's looking a bit like a reroll meta to me for the Vegas patch, but who knows? Hopefully I'm wrong, because I don't want it to be a reroll meta. But I'm scared, to say the least. But anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys learned something, and I will see you guys all later. Take care, guys. And by the way, if I see you at Vegas, please come say hi to me, because I am very people shy. So, like, I will not reach out first. You're gonna have to approach me, because I don't do that. But yeah, if I see you at Vegas, please come say hi. I would love to see you. I will hopefully see you guys there. I'm also competing at Vegas, so hopefully we don't get day 1. 75% of the contenders are gonna get eliminated day 1, though. So I mean, my chances aren't that great, but who knows? Variance is a thing, and maybe my read on this 3-cost reroll meta is going to be good for me, and hopefully not too many people watch this video. I hope people watch this video, but maybe not a lot of people do, and then we're chilling, and then like, ooh, 3-cost reroll is the tech, but I mean, I kind of doubt it. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see you guys all later. Take care, guys, and happy climbing.